Welcome to another Empowering Choices for Women segment via video. I love doing these video segments because it gives me an opportunity to share my guests live and in person. So I'm really excited to share with you today Michelle May Wright, coming all the way from Australia. Michelle, welcome to Choices for Women.
Thanks, Nancy.
And I'm really excited to share Michelle because I've known her for for several years now, and we met. I did a webinar, and she jumped on my webinar and started asking me some questions during the webinar. We started talking after the webinar, and then we've been friends ever since. We're friends, we're partners, we're strategic partners, we are business partners, and she has a powerful message to share. And so I'm really excited to share her with you. Michelle has written a book called Remember, Everything is Possible. Now, here's what you don't know about Michelle. Michelle is a medium, natural born medium. What does that mean? It means that when she was born, it was there. No one had to teach it to her. It was just there. So, Michelle, before we go any farther, can you share with people, when you say natural born medium, I mean, oh my gosh, since childhood, and we've talked about this many times, but for the sake of the audience, can you share?
Yes, certainly. What that means is I have memory of when I was a baby. So I have memory of standing in my cot, memory crawling on the floor, memory of why am I in this place? I can't communicate, but I'm aware of what's going on. I also have memory of before I came to Earth. So this was very prevalent at such a young age. And I lived with two worlds. So even though I existed in the physical world, I was very aware that I had a spiritual world and that I was communicating with, we call it God at that particular time. God was my best friend. I used to have a lot of chats to him at a very young age and ask, why am I actually here? The only thing was, at that age, I never received back a conversation. But there was no forthcoming information to me, but I was communicating, going, well, I'm here. Why? It was very natural. At the same time, a little bit confusing to me. So I was born without the veil, and the veil is the memory that we don't have. So, for instance, I was born knowing where I came from, and most people come having no memory or recall. I also remember past lives. So it all melded into one. And that's what a natural born medium means.
So when you were a little girl and you started talking, I mean, we've all seen movies, and so I think a lot of people, their version of what you do is Hollywood based. So what happens? Like, you're a little girl and you walk up to your mom and you say, hey Mom, I've been talking to this guy in my room. I mean, how does that start?
Yes, I had a beautiful mum who, whether she believed me or not, never indicated that she didn't believe in me. So she was very, very supportive. And I did hear voices and I did feel spirit with me. And so at 5, I was meditating at 5, and I was creating my sanctuary at 5, and I was doing thoughts create reality at 5. So my theory of heaven at 5 was very simple. And I would say to her, Mummy, I guess, there are levels in heaven. So if I'm really good here on earth, then the higher I will climb towards God. So I described it as steps. And my mother looked at me and said, well, that's lovely, darling, yes. So she was quite accepting of it all. As I grew, so from 5 to 9 was a jump spiritually. At 9 was when all the phenomena happened. 9 was when my clairvoyance was really in full swing. So being a natural born medium means I have all the clairsentience. I'm a clairvoyant, I'm a channeler, I'm a healer, I can do psychometry. So there is no area there that I can't do naturally. So I see past over people. So it's all very normal to me to have two worlds. So even looking at you, Nancy, I can still see the beyond the veil. I can see the other world. So for me to channel, for instance, if your grandmother came, I'd see her very clearly. So yeah, I hope I've explained that well enough.
I hope Grammy, hi Grammy, I know she loves me and I know she's proud of me. So I love when you share that with me, that you know that she's right here, because it's just, it's really amazing. And I think that more and more we are learning about spiritual journeys, spiritual awakenings, understanding what the veil means. And so for the people who are watching this, who are skeptical and who don't quite think that you, you know, have a full load of marbles up here or something, have you ever felt like you needed to be in a position to explain yourself or make them understand? Was there a time in your life when you tried to make someone understand?
Yes and no. So I was in the cupboard, as you call it, for a long time.
In the closet. Okay.
Growing up, having that insight. So I want to stay on track with your question. So I didn't really come out of the closet until I was in my 20s. So growing up I was born in 1964. There wasn't a lot of information around. And in Australia, definitely there wasn't. In the UK, people were studying at the big institutes. There's a big institute over there in UK. But a lot of us were very quiet, and it was deemed as the devil's work. So really, I guess I kept quiet, and I just lived in my own inner sanctuary, knowing, seeing and feeling until the age of 21. Then I found a teacher who understood who I was, and she was my saviour. And she said, "You're not going mad, you're actually a natural medium." And I sort of knew that it was natural, but I didn't have a label for me. Mm-hmm. And she said, "Come and sit with me and learn about yourself." And so this is where my life really took a turn. At 21, I began spiritual development classes to discover that it was all very normal, and that I was probably always top of the class, which could be quite annoying, but it was just all coming out, and I had that opportunity to self-express without limitation. And then I started sharing with people who I was, and I found actually a lot of my peers were very excited to hear what I had to say and always wanted me to give them a reading. And so it was fun from then on in. But up to the age of 21, I was quite tortured living in a world by myself. You can imagine a child when the bed would shake, or objects would fly across the room, or lights would turn different colours, and you'd hear voices. And it's very scary. Mm-hmm. So I'm amazed I survived that on my own, but a lot of us do.
Well, I know that there are often times when you and I are having a discussion, because you and I tend to Skype a lot, and we have a lot of discussions because we do things, you know, work-wise and business-wise together, that sometimes when I'm talking to you, it takes you a while to answer me, but I know, having worked with you for so long, that you're hearing my question and you're also getting answers from somewhere else. So it's like you're listening to two conversations at one time. And I'm thinking, like, I don't know, it would have to be a little nerve-wracking, because it's like, you know, when a child is like, mom, can you do, mom, and you're, as a mom, you're trying to do something, but the child is very persistent, and you want to pay attention to what the child's saying, but on the same hand, you need to do what it is that you need to do. Is it kind of like that?
Yes, most definitely. It's my guides were parents. But now I realize that I actually can have the control and stop it if I don't want to hear it at that particular time. But it is continuous, and it always has been. And that's been the difficulty, is quietening the mind. So there are huge advantages and there are disadvantages. Yes.
Well, I know when you and I met, as I said, it was over a webinar that I was doing, and I was teaching on this particular webinar. I was teaching about levels of self and self-love, and why it's important for women to really understand what levels of self is all about. And you know, I had never met you before, and during the course of the what was a teleseminar, you were getting excited. You were making comments, and you were saying yes, and it was as though you and I were having this conversation, and everyone else was kind of getting to listen to our conversation about things, and it really added to the teleseminar. It was quite awesome. So we knew afterwards that, you know, we were meant to connect. We were meant to be in each other's lives, and because whatever's going to happen, we're going to do it together. And now look, here we are 2 years later, almost more than maybe a little over 2 years, and we're doing this video together. And we're doing this video because you have written a book, and it's been out for a while, but you are ready to really just jump off and share in a big way what this book is all about. And I've been so excited, humbled, privileged to have read the book, to practice what's in the book, to work with you based on what you teach in the book. So before we go any farther, again, I'm gonna hold this up so that people can see. Remember, everything is possible. Can you share how this book came about?
Yes, I'd love to share that with you. So after studying metaphysics for 6 years, which really meant that I understood that I could heal, I understood that I could channel, and I understood about clairvoyance, I then put it into practice. So I taught meditation and I taught healing, but I had two really important questions that I wanted the universe to answer for me. And that was, how come by the time I got to my mid-30s, and after teaching and going through many experiences and reading professionally, that I wasn't always receiving the answers or manifestations that I was trying to achieve? I knew that there was a block within us, and that there was some crossover that would happen between the physical and the spiritual for us to actually achieve our manifestation. So that was my first question. The second question I asked the universe was, how does a miracle occur? I've been privy to many miracles. I've been privy to be in intensive care units where people were going to pass away, and I was called in to do healing on them. And miraculously, by the doctors, they were a miracle, they came out of it. But I know the background and the spiritual background behind that, because of their soul not wanting to go, the fact they're trapped between two worlds, the fact that I could talk to their loved ones and help them actually stay here in the physical body. So being privy to those type of miracles, I knew that we really had the power to control or self-heal ourselves. So when I say control, being able to bring ourselves back into the body because the soul decides to stay. So the soul is really powerful, and I knew that. So there was a missing link, a huge missing link for me in these particular areas. So, and it's quite defining. I remember at 33 throwing my hands up in the air and saying, well, come on, universe, what are the answers to these questions? And my guides then said, great, sit down, put your hands on the computer, and we'll give you those answers. And I can be quite a skeptic myself and go, oh yeah, sure, okay. Giggled away, and away I went and typed, and this amazing information started transpiring onto paper. So the journey began then, and unbeknownst to me, the guides were saying, well, we're going to tell you what a thought is. We're going to tell you how it's born and the mechanics of a thought and how it becomes a manifestation. So they were taking care of that particular question. Then when it came to the miracle, that was taken care of later as I got more into my writings. Participants became on board because writing a particular formula, you need people to trial it. So together, the participants and I went on this amazing journey. I wrote and I taught at the same time. And it was exciting because they were learning about who they were as a physical being and who they were as a spiritual being. And by using this simple technique called the Golden Box meditation, they were taught how to drop the ego that hinders us. And I'm talking about the negative ego, not the positive ego. And when you drop that and you work with your pure self, there's this crossover that happens, and that's where the manifestation happens. That's where the miracle occurs. I'm simplifying it because obviously the technique's in the book for the reader or listener to try for themselves. But I never thought that I would be the one to create the miracle. As people were manifesting, and they were manifesting very quickly, after 7 days, there was an amazing turnaround, which surprised me, and I was delighted. We had people creating businesses. We had financial income. We had millions of dollars being created. We had people losing weight, self-healing. It was extraordinary. But there was still this one area that needed answering. And when I say they were creating miracles, they were. But the true physical miracle happened when I used the technique to dissolve a particular medical problem. Again, being the skeptic going, oh, well, you will see. The technique was put to the test. And I was delighted to say that this medical problem was completely healed, and I have a specialist who has written a letter saying, we don't know what on earth have you done, but it's completely dissolved. The second miracle happened just before I finished writing the book. I had a stroke. Now, who would have thought? So having this stroke actually was a positive, not a negative. It enabled me to be stripped of all ego, of any feeling that was attached to worry or care. And I could only feel and see what I'd written in a light that I would never have seen if I didn't have the stroke. So that was a true testament of the technique, because I used the technique to actually self-heal. I'd lost my memory and my speech. It wasn't all coming together. It was a very turbulent time for me. So within 3 months, I was climbing back. I was able to start putting words together. It did take me 12 months to fully heal. But after I had the stroke, I was able to then finish the manuscript, which was an amazing feat considering what I'd just been through. But then my mum got sick and my mother died. So within a very short period of time, I was given quite a few challenges. If I hadn't had this amazing technique, I wouldn't have been able to speak, write my mother's eulogy, and stand up without the emotion. So at the end of the day, I guess the universe was saying, well, it's really a gift to you, so you can then share this. If you don't live it and experience it, then how can you share it? So living and experiencing those particular lessons has really given me the passion to share something that I feel so amazing. And really, it's only teaching you how to find those answers from within. We've just all forgotten. And that's my mission. And that's why I wrote the book.
And it's such a beautiful mission. And, I was just talking to another woman earlier today about those of us that are teachers or healers or life coaches. And I would say 99.9 of us go into that based on something that we've gone through came out of, and once we've been on the other side, realized this is our calling, and we need to go on and help others. And you're doing the same thing. The thing is that I think because the spiritual, the mediumship, all the clairvoyant, I know there's the clairvoyant properties of it, because it's an unknown, because people don't understand it. It's hard for people to grab a hold of it. It's hard for people to not dismiss it as woo-woo and say, oh, that can't be, or that lady's off her rocker. But, there's just too much out there showing us that the universe, it's just all about energy. And this is what you're doing in the book, or not doing, but sharing in the book, because it's about teaching people how this energy works and how you can bring what you want to fruition in your life. And I know that this golden box meditation works because I've used it personally several times since I've met you and been often amazed. And I almost stopped myself when I said amazed, because I shouldn't be amazed, because I am a huge believer. It's been proven to me. But I think that I will never cease to be amazed, because we get to the point where we think everything has to be hard. Everything has to be so, I have to work for this. And what you're teaching in this book is a way for people to manifest something that they thought was maybe unattainable, or something that they thought they should just give up and forget about it. And I know that you've got many testimonials in here based on the people who said that, yes, they would be your guinea pig, so to speak, and you did real life ad hocs on people for this book. I mean, you had several people that you said, what would you like to bring forth? And we're going to start from beginning to end so that I can put your story in the book. And I know that you've changed a couple of the names because, it was all about privacy. But I think what I want to go back to, because here's the question that I have. I think for a long time, it took me a long time to just appreciate who I am and accept the gift that I am and the gifts that I've been given to help others. Because it's hard for, I was going to say women, and I'm going to say women because this audience is primarily for women. It's hard for us to accept the fact that we're a gift. We're here for a reason. We have a purpose. We have talents and abilities. But so often we allow ourselves to be disempowered because it's hard for us to believe we're all that and more. And so when someone says to you, you're so much more than you realize, you're so much more than you realize, if you're not ready to accept that for yourself, that can be really, really challenging. So it took me a very long time to finally accept who I am, my gifts, and what I pass along to people that come into my life, whether it be a client, someone I meet at the grocery store, or my children or my grandchildren. And for you, Michelle, I want to say that most people would say, but this is so much more. It's like you have a direct pipeline to, God himself or the universe itself or the angels. And I think that there are a lot of people that are curious about how that works. Do you just get everything you want? Of course, I know the answer to this. We've had these conversations, but I'd love to bring this up during this interview so that people understand that's not how this works.
Yes. No, I don't. I get everything that I want because there's a lot of reasons. Okay, so that's a great question, and I'm pausing because I'm trying to give you the.
Yes, I know that you're not only speaking from you, but you're getting divine guidance as well. So take your time.
So what the technique does, if I just explain that from start to finish, and they say, what is your call? What is the calling card? If, you know, often people say, what's your calling card? Well, the technique teaches you how to get in touch with your inner self, get in touch with your soul, basically, that connects to your higher self. So everyone has the ability to do this. And my job is to remind you how to do this. So it fills in the gaps from start to finish of the how-to, the manual on how to. And the reason, okay, again, I apologize, I'm pausing. We all have the ability to create and manifest what we want, but it has to be divinely given, it has to be the right time, and it has to be about self. And you have to have structure. And I'm sorry to use the word have. So there's a combination. And when we don't put the combination together, this is where we become disappointed. But it's also about surrendering over. So when we set up a pattern, so when we do the technique daily, we're actually telling ourselves in heaven, that part of us, which is our higher self that sits up there waiting for our information, that we're going to be there. We've got an appointment with ourselves every day. And by doing that, your higher self says, okay, I'm going to wait for you to come and meet me. And so when you do this technique, you're thinking about self. It's not about anybody else. And the mistake we make is we put others into what we want. Yeah. Can't be about, we can't change someone else's pathway. It must always be about self. We have blockages, and it's the blockages that hinder us. And so in the technique goes into stages. When you do have blockages, then I will teach you how to dissolve those blockages so you can actually clear the pathway to create. And they're usually emotional. So the technique is in its original form, then it goes into the blockages of surrendering emotional blockages and surrendering non-emotional blockages. So this is where I call it the how-to. So when we don't put that combination together, we don't necessarily achieve what we're wanting to achieve. Also, we put limitations on what we're asking for. We might say, well, in our thought process, I need to have financial income, and I saw that job in that paper and I want that particular job. Thank you very much. But then you're putting a limitation on it. So we don't want a limitation on that. We want you to say in your meditation, I really would love a job that will give me either what I'm looking at or the equivalent of. And so that's just a simple example of how we can actually block ourselves from achieving. And it sounds all very complicated, but it's quite simple. And that's, again, why it's all put into book form. So from start to finish, I take you by the hand. I explain to you, again, what is a thought? You know, how can a thought hinder you? How do you stop that thought from hindering you? And how do you surrender that to create your manifestation? When I do my technique, everything flows. But I'm human. I forget to. I get off the bike. I think, why is this happening to me? And blockages happen. And then I think, okay, Michelle, get back, use your golden box meditation and make it happen. So yes, I'm human. I do create blockages. But the wonderful thing is I have this technique that will be with me forever, and that's why I wanted to share it. I don't feel I have the right to keep it a secret.
And isn't that what you just said is so important, because I know I myself have felt that message so many times. Nancy, you have this message to share. Why are you sitting on it? Why are you not sharing it? And there are so many people who also have a message, but they doubt themselves. And that's where ego comes in. A lot of people think ego is boastful or bragging, but ego is what keeps us keeps us from less than self. It's what keeps us from doing the great stuff we're supposed to do. So when you've got this idea or this thought or, I don't know, this knowledge, and you feel like, wow, this would really be beneficial to a lot of people, what's stopping you from getting out there and sharing it? Because it's on all levels of whether it's how to create an airplane or, you know, a meditation or a better way to connect via the internet. You know, I just wonder, you know, 20 years ago, there was no such thing as the internet. And now look, it's making it possible for you and I to be able to have this interview from halfway around the world from each other. And so when you think about the internet starting and then people saying, well, I think we could do this and I could do this. There were people that said, are you crazy? That's not going to happen. Or that we'd be carrying cell phones around, phones small enough to put in our pockets. And so it all comes from people removing that ego so that you can accept that God-given gift that's in you and share it with the world, because that's what's changing the energy. That's what's creating this huge energetic shift that we're going through. And when everyone starts adding to it rather than trying to stay out of it, we're moving energy and we're making things happen. Yes?
Absolutely. Yes. And it's a very exciting time. So yes to everything you've just said. I'm just amazed at the amazing shift that's happened since I was young to now. So I'm 52, and from my 20s onwards, from 1987 really was the beginning of the spiritual shift. Up to that point, there were people like myself everywhere. We were just quiet. We were hidden. Or they stayed with particular groups. And since then, the spiritual evolution has really grown. I've been a part of it. I've watched it, and I'm still sitting amongst it. And it never ceases to amaze me of how people have really just become awakened. And that's another word. My book is to awaken you to yourself. And as you are awakening lots of wonderful women to the power and empowerment of self. So we're all here to do our bit. We're all light workers, and we've got a message, each one of us. It's valuing that message and being confident enough to share that. And that's what I love about you, Nancy. You're out there, you're loud, you're proud, and that's just awesome. Whereas I really would love to share my message. I'm just a little bit quieter, but that's okay.
That's okay. I'm usually loud and proud enough for 2, or sometimes 5, so it's all good. But this is why I love what I do. And, you know, the fact that Choices for Women is now interviewing people via video, it's yet another way for us to share our messages. And you know, I'm always looking for featured guests who are out there to empower, inspire, motivate others. And Michelle, you're certainly doing that. And I just want to say that I honor the fact that you accepted your calling. And as I said, we've had many discussions about this. And what would you say for someone who maybe isn't ready to take a look at your book? They're not really sure if they believe what you're saying. They've kind of got, you know, one foot in I don't believe and one foot in I do believe, and so they can't, and they just can't go either way.
So would this person particularly, okay, so they're skeptical. I'd say give it a try. I mean, I've had quite a lot of people say, oh, I don't understand it. They've given it a try. They don't understand it. But then they've put it down and they'll come back 6 months later, try it and go, oh, yes, now I understand. It's all about timing too. So if they're wanting to and it's not working, then I would say relax, let it go, because divine timing will happen when they're ready to be awakened. But if they don't understand, but they want to try, and then give it a go. Have a go, trial it, see what comes for them. Keep it simple. Do something small. So the technique isn't about just creating and manifesting big, bold manifestations. It's about clearing your day. It's about feeling good at the end of the day. It's infinite. It's about achieving a car park. It doesn't have to be, in a spiritual sense. I have quite a few participants who weren't spiritual, who, like Stephen and Ben, who are participants in the book. Stephen is a business guy. He doesn't understand, doesn't want to know anything about the spiritual stuff, but he uses the technique in its original form. And that's what I've omitted to say. I've written the book for two types of readers: people who are non-spiritual and people who are spiritual. So stage 1 gives the technique in a simple version without talking about the universal language. Stage 2 gives the spiritual reader all that spiritual language of chakras and cutting cords. So I would say, if it's about reading the book, try stage 1, give it a go, keep an open mind. If they still struggle, I'd say then let it go, and when you're ready to receive, it will happen.
Well, I would say that if someone is still this far into the video, if someone started watching this video and they're still with us, they're curious. There's something opening up in them. And so why would you not, invest in yourself and purchase the book and see what's going on? Because when you can try something in the comfort of your own home and say, oh, wow, I get this now, I understand. Or maybe you'll say, well, that didn't work. But I can tell you that there have been many, many books that have called to me, and I've purchased the book, maybe gotten a couple chapters into it, I've laid it down, and then maybe a year or two later, I'll go in and start reading the book, and I'm thinking, how come I didn't read this book before? Oh my gosh, this information, I needed this. And the plain fact is that I needed it now. I didn't need it then, but something called to me and said, you're going to need this later. And this is the stuff that we don't give credence to. We I think, as a society, have forgotten to listen to our feelings. We've forgotten to listen to our intuition. And our feelings and our intuition are our guides, and our guidance system, our GPS system, so to speak. And so this is why meditation is so important, because when you meditate and you allow yourself to quiet your mind and to go within and not put any expectations on the outcome. Oh, I'm going to sit here and I want the answer to the lottery numbers. That doesn't work, So yes, you're going into it skeptically. And so what you think about, you bring about. That doesn't work. Whoop, it doesn't work. And so understanding that your intuition and your feelings are guiding you all of the time. I know a lot of people that know me know that I'm really, really a big appreciative person of Jack Canfield's work. Early on, it was in the 80s when I first got a hold of some of his work. I started, opening my mind, and it started opening my mind about all these things that I just didn't realize, that I really am somebody, that I really do matter, that I'm here for a reason. And every time I would start to say, oh, I doubt myself, I would say to myself, but Jack says you do matter. Jack says you are here for a reason. So I had no way of knowing that cassette tape was going to be the catalyst to help me start asking questions. And the many teachers and mentors and classes and clients that I have experienced since then, it's been amazing to me. And every one of them has added to where I started. And it started with a cassette tape. So you don't know whether it's going to be a book or a cassette tape or a video that you watch or a song that you listen to. And one of the things I remember, this is coming up for me, that Jack said in this cassette tape, and trust me, I listened to it so many times I could say it by heart. He said, I don't remember the exact the whole story about it, but something about there was a businessman, and I think he lived in California, and he wanted a specific piece of property, and he just kept hearing this voice or feeling this message: you have to go to Kingman, Arizona. You have to go now. You have to go to Kingman, Arizona. So this guy got in his car and he drove to Kingman, Arizona, and he got there really early in the morning, and he's like, okay, I'm here. Now what am I supposed to do? And so he happened to be standing in front of a real estate office, and it wasn't open, of course, but there was a sign in the window about a particular piece of property that he was interested in, and he had thought that the time had passed to be able to take advantage of that. So when the doors opened, he went in and he asked about it, and the person that was waiting on him said, wow, that's weird. This just came up last night, at closing. And so I remember, hearing that story. And of course I heard it over and over and over. And when I first heard Jack say that, I thought, wow, that's kind of weird. Who's going to get in the car and drive from California to Kingman, Arizona, just because they got this feeling? But this is what I'm talking about. These feelings, these intuitions, we need to pay attention to that. Yeah. And, Gavin DeBecker, he talks about it as your gift of fear. Meaning that when you are feeling fearful, that's a gift. That's your intuition. That's your gut instinct saying, you've got to look around. Something is happening. And you might be in physical danger, or you might be just stepping outside of your comfort zone and feeling fearful of that. Either way, it's something that you want to pay attention to. So this stuff is real. These teachings are real, and they've been around forever. It's just they haven't been very vocal forever. So if you're having any challenges in your life, or you're stuck and you can't figure out I've tried everything. Well, if you haven't connected to spirit, if you haven't opened up your spiritual journey, what are you waiting for? That's kind of what I want to know. And so, Michelle, if someone comes to you and they're telling you, I don't know if I believe or I don't believe, and they don't really come to you because they need a reading or anything like that. They're just reaching out. How would you counsel them?
Well, I would give them a little exercise to do. So I would sit with them, say it's you, I'd sit with you and I'd say, well, okay, well, let's just talk for a moment. Let me get an assessment of how you're feeling. And then I would tune into that, ask their permission first, of course, may I tune into you? And then I would give them some information that only they would know. So that then validates what I'm saying. So as a medium, you have to validate or capture an audience or that person in the first 5 minutes. It's like in a book, from the first 8 pages, you have to capture the reader. Mm-hmm. So that gets them to relax. So they're tuning in with me at the same time, and then we would go from there. And so they would be able to experiment, and something within, like their soul would then say, okay, well, we got you here for a reason. You may not. So their soul's got them there. The mind doesn't understand that. That's where the ego mind is a package and the soul and the spirit is a package. And then I would, gently bring out that soul spirit within them, so it would then cognitively make sense and we would start progressing. Is that?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I totally understand that. And Michelle, I just want to say that, first of all, I love the book. I love the book. You know that. I love the book. And I'm really honored to do this interview with you and be a catalyst to help you share this message. I know that you've done a podcast on Choices for Women. I think it was over a year ago, and you shared your message, you shared about the book, but now, you are just coming out in such a big way, and, doing a video interview, it's just really, you're letting the universe know, look, I'm here, and I am your servant to share this message, to awaken people and share this message. And I really honor you that you are honoring yourself and your gifts. Thank you.
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you very much, Nancy, for the opportunity. It's extraordinary opportunity. I'm very grateful. And it's nice for to, for the audience to see each other's faces. I
Yeah.
feel that's the strong connection. I sort of hide away and feel the message is in the book, but you've taught me that the message actually is in that connection on the human level. So thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome. So Michelle, tell me, or not me because I already know, but the people watching this, like how would they be able to get this book and connect with you and, stalk you on social media? How would they find you?
Well, I have a website, and the website is www.goldenboxmeditation.com.au. So there they can purchase the book, and I will send it directly to you or to them. I also have an ebook, so they can go onto Amazon or iTunes and download the ebook if they don't want a hard copy. There is also a book trailer on my website that takes you on a journey. I love this video.
It's awesome.
It epitomizes to me everything that the book is about, and that's a very powerful video. So I would suggest that they have a look at that. And there are testimonial videos on the website. So my participants were very brave and got up and shared their stories, which I'm very grateful for. So that's how you find me, and you can email me and we can Skype and have a chat, or I could teach you on one-to-one if you would like that. So there are many, many ways of getting hold of me now.
Absolutely. And that's www.goldenboxmeditation.com.au, because remember, she's in Australia. And Michelle, again, I just want to say I'm just so honored to be able to be sharing this with you today and to be sharing you today. And thank you for being here.
No, thank you as well. I feel very blessed. Thank you. And thank you for everyone who's still with us.
Yes. And for all of you listeners, all of you watching, I hope that you really enjoyed and you'll connect with Michelle. This is Nancy Mueller saying ciao for now.